Hello, friends, and welcome back, everybody. So, guys, tonight we are talking about one of the most confusing international stories we have seen in years. Depending on who you listen to, this is either a historic peace breakthrough, a temporary ceasefire, held together by the political optimism, or a deal that nobody outside a small circle has actually read. President Trump says the agreement with Iran is effectively done, said that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen without any tolls, allowing the global energy markets to breathe again. Now, Iran says, hold on, there may still be fees involved for that. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israeli troops are staying in Lebanon. Now, while the Iranian officials also argue that would violate the agreement entirely. So, guys, here is the question for all of you watching tonight. How can the world celebrate a deal when nobody seems to agree on what the deal actually says? So, guys, let me know in the comments because I genuinely want to know where do you stand. Do you trust that leaders are handing this behind the scenes, or do you believe the public deserves to see the full text before anyone calls this a victory? So, first, let's break this down. So, why does the Strait of Hormuz matter so much? We all know that roughly one fifth of the world's oil supply moves through this narrow waterway. When it closes or even appears unstable, energy markets react simultaneously. Gas prices become a concern. Now, also the energy costs also rise. Now, investors get nervous. That's why Trump's announcement created such a massive reaction. But then came the contradictions. Trump framed it as a toll free passage, essentially saying ships could move freely again. Iranian officials responded by saying not be tolls, but there could be fees under Iranian arrangements. Now, for many Americans watching this unfold, that distinction feels like a less clarity, right? Now, and more like the semantics and agreeing on the Iran demands as well. Is a free different form a toll if the companies still have to pay? That's one of the debates now taking place across the political lines. Then there is Lebanon as well. Netanyahu says Israeli troops will remain there, and Tehran argues that confirmed continued operations would violate the spirit, or it can perhaps enhance the letter as well of the understanding reach. If that's true, then either there are side agreements nobody has disclosed, or the key players have completely different interpretations of what they have accepted. And also, now what happened, like where the trust becomes the real story tonight. So, this isn't just about diplomacy, it's about transparency. Americans have lived through decades of overseas agreements that sounded straightforward during the press conferences, but they also turn out to be far more complicated once the details emerge. So, guys, now supporters of President Trump argue that the unconventional diplomacy is exactly what produces the results, and that leaders shouldn't negotiate every detail in public. But on the other hand, critics argue that if this deal is truly historic, then the public should be allowed to read what has actually been promised. So, guys, let me ask you directly, if you were negotiating peace, would the secrecy be necessary to get a breakthrough, or does secrecy create even more distrust? Comment below. I want to hear from you guys, from the veterans, parents, business owners, truck drivers worried about the fuel cost, and people who simply want the stability after the years of geopolitical tensions. Now, another major unanswered question here is Iran's nuclear program. The rhetoric has been strong, but broader negotiations reportedly continue. So, is this the end of a conflict, the beginning of a longer process, or simply a pause before another round of disagreements? And Also, nobody outside the negotiating rooms can answer that with confirmed clarity and certainty. So, markets are reacting, allies are watching, and critics are also raising the red flags. Supporters are calling it as a bold leadership, and millions of ordinary Americans are asking a very simple question: what exactly was agreed to? That's the question at the center of tonight's live stream. So, guys, before we wrap up, let me know in the comments, do you think this agreement deserves the benefit of the doubt, or should the administration release the full text immediately so the ordinary Americans are also aware? Is this smart diplomacy, political theater, or something in between? So, guys, if you have enjoyed thoughtful conversations that go beyond the headlines and actually ask the difficult questions, hit that like button, share this stream with someone who sees the world differently than you do, and also subscribe if you are new here. And let keep the conversation respectful and thoughtful, because on issues this important, the disagreements doesn't have to be mean division. Thank you so much for joining in today, guys, and keep watching and keep getting updated. And I will see you guys in the next discussion. Thank you so much.